check in on the Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, and let's say good morning to you, sir. How you doing?
Good morning. Great.
Nice to see you. It is June 12th. We're kind of halfway through the year, you could say. We have the first day of summer coming up in a little less than 10 days here, June 21st. So we're about halfway through. So let's do kind of a look back at the year that was and how are things going. You know, we kind of get into this day-to-day grind as it is, and you forget to look back at some of the major events that have happened here in the county over the last 6 months or so. There's been a ton of them.
Yes, and it's particularly concerning. We started off the year in January, and the first comments that came out was that if we go over budget, that the sheriff has to lay people off. What seems to happen is we get a major event and people kind of forget about it and goes on until the next one's the next new thing.
Yeah.
And we leave these behind. It took a look back through our stats since January, and we've had 33 major issues that affected public safety in Mason County that weren't just your basic theft, burglary, something like that. And I think people have kind of forgotten. And the issue is with that is we're coming up on the end of this year, and the county budget is already short and going into next year. And everybody says maintain status quo. The problem is you can't when you have these kind of calls. And so I started in January actually calling the chair of the county commission and asking, do you want us to take these calls or don't you? Because they were so big and so fast, and we know that if we use them, we could end up going over budget. So I want to do a quick recap. We started off with a missing boater in the North Bay area, and then we had the search location for that. We had a double homicide in January. We had Kitsap County had a quad homicide. We ended up with one of the bodies in the vehicle here. We had major issues and crashes on Pickering Road. Lilywop, we had a missing person, and we ended up there and finally finding that person. We had the blocking mudslides that we had to call people out for. We had another missing male. We had a body recovery in the Allen area. We had a major suicide. We had the shootings at Spencer Lake. We had the SWAT call out in the Shorecrest area where somebody reported killing the wife of a police officer, and it ended up being a false call, but we had to call everybody out with our SWAT team. We had diver death at Octopus Hole. We had home invasion robberies off Trails Road. It resulted in a homicide out there. We had search for missing planes. We had interrupted car prowl ended up in a major vehicle pursuit. Suspicious death investigations in the Belfair area. Multiple day search missions for missing hikers in the Skokomish area. We had the most recent one with some have coined this called the sleeper creeper, the person going into houses looking. We had armed robberies in the North Bay area. We had reported school shooting, which was alleged school shooting, that we had to call everybody out on. The missing boaters and on Lake Devereaux, a homicide in Hoodsport. We assisted with Olympia Police Department called and asked for assistance with their riots that we had to call people out for. We had a homicide in Lilywop. We had attempted suicide. We had another missing hiker in the Mount Washington area. And then we had a person tried to douse himself and family and burn with flames, try to burn somebody. We had the most recent issue with that homicide up at Party Rock. And we had armed robbery resulting in assaults in the Allen area.
So these are a lot of things.
It's one after this, and you just keep going. And the challenge with that is those are no way predictable.
Sure.
And we don't know from night to night what we're getting. So on each one of those, I'd call the commissioner home and say, do you want us to go or don't you? Because this will put us over. The only thing that saved us this year, as far as budget, is we're nine persons short in the sheriff's office of what we should be. And had we had those positions full, there's no way our budget could have covered these.
Right.
And then now you're paying out overtime anyway because you're 9 people short. So I just want to recap where we've been this year. It's so easy to forget when the next big event comes along or something on TV comes along about all these things that have been occurring in our community.
It's a little over one a week. I mean, if you kind of crunch the numbers, and I know these aren't all criminal cases. A lot of them are missing folks that go out into the woods that we have around the area. But is this then now also a concern, just looking at the number of calls, major issues, you say, for crime in Mason County? I mean, I thought we had talked too that some of the numbers were down, but
our numbers for our thefts and those kind of things and burglaries and generally the things that we handle that are I don't want to say day-to-day things, but for our county that are occurring, those things that we've worked on to bring those numbers down, these are issues, a lot of them have occurred, a homicide occurs out of county and one of the bodies ends up in our county from another county. We're still part of that. Now, those aren't things that we can control. When people come from out of our county to go hiking and they get lost and those kind of things, there is a lot of those that are non-criminal issues, but they're always given to the sheriff's office to handle. They're ours to handle. So our overall crime rate is down, but our major crimes and things that are occurring, we can't control suicidal behavior or false calls into buildings and things like that result in major issues. But those other factors, we've done really, really well with bringing that down. But these are just the things that come up.
Is there something in the law enforcement community where when you guys get called to Thurston to do some work in Olympia at the end of the month or at the end of the year, is there ever the idea to send them a bill?
No. And we don't do that. It would be so tough to bill for those. As you recall, when I first came here in 2007, 2008, we had a number of circumstances where people shot at our officers. We had officer-involved shootings. My old agency at Thurston investigated all of those. I don't think Mason County probably could have handled that bill, to be honest with you. What happens is then we get called, a couple months later down to Pacific County. They need a SWAT team, and ours was available. We sent them all the way to Pacific. I think those things over the years, they kind of come out in the wash. And I think all the agencies are very, very good about sending resources. It would be if Mason County, when we had the school issue, the alleged school issue up there, that was 115 officers and 15 agencies. Are we going to pay all those? Mason County's budget couldn't handle that. And so it all comes out in the wash. We trade that around, but no, we don't bill each other. We have a multi-agency response team between us and the other counties. If we have a major incident, and we each have 2 persons on that team. So whoever has the most incidents that year, maybe they get the best deal. But what comes around goes around.
We had some major high school graduations over the weekend. Is there anything you want to say to the graduating class of 2017 as they venture forth and have a good summer?
It gets interesting. I'm really overjoyed this week. I get to speak to the Southside graduation this week. And I think about just a few years ago, my kids were out there, and I think the biggest thing that I see now is when my kids call me and tell me, "Geez, I had to work all day. I'm tired." And oh, really?
Not summer break anymore.
Yeah, out of school for college, and I got to work all day. They're not liking that too well anymore. It's kind of interesting. So, I just say continue to be safe. I'm not aware of, at least at this time, I haven't been in the front office to speak with people this morning. I'm not aware of any major injuries or major problems over the weekend. And if that's the case, I'm so proud of them to make, because you got a lot of life ahead of you and some great stuff. A lot of these kids at graduations, you see the scholarships and where kids are headed out to. And I'm so thrilled. One of my sons is over at Central, and the number of kids, when I went to Central, there was only 3 of us from Shelton that year, and that for that many of those years, it's the same group. And we all went through, and now there's loads of kids. It's so neat to see so many kids from our community headed off to college and doing great things for the community. They're going to bring some great stuff back.
Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, always nice talking with you, and we'll check in next week.
Thank you.